so happy to be here with you this Mother's Day, and knowing that every mother in this room has given so much love and so many blessings to so many people, including their own children and many more. Mothers who are able, would you stand and let us celebrate you? Yes. Thank you. You are our rock and our foundation for living. You've made a huge difference, and all of those who may not have a child we have brought forward in this way, don't you feel the blessing every time you reach out and they make a positive difference in a young person's life? It adds up to make such a difference for them and for our whole world. I was thinking today of the original Mother of Unity, Myrtle Fillmore. What a blessing to all of us. She had a few things to say about me being a mom, too. In fact, in the book, The Mother of Unity, we find these words from Myrtle. I've been companion to one man and have had 3 grow up calling me mother, releasing them from what I might have felt they should do. Yes, we know about that. She says it's given great joy and satisfaction. But she also says, I haven't always sat back and been still. I have had my say, but it's ever been given with great love and appreciation. And then she goes on to say this, we have ever to make allowance for the experimental stages of soul unfoldment. These come in babyhood, in youth, in maturity. They keep coming and are a sure sign of constant growth. And motherhood, from this perspective of empowering young people, becoming our emerging leaders in the world, is an amazing perspective from a woman of that time. I mean, she was born in the late 1800s. What a blessing, huh? Yay, Myrtle! And that philosophy is still being carried forward today in Unity's youth and family ministry. That's what's in there. It's drawing out that wisdom within us, the divinity within all of us, that Christ within, to empower all of us and our young emerging leaders. I had a friend when I was in school at Unity to become a minister, and she and her name was Jen Holder, and she and her husband Ogun, now Reverend Ogun Holder, were 100% committed to raising their little baby girl that they named Joy, according to these spiritual principles. They even started a radio show on Unity FM called Spiritual Parenting, which they did for a number of years to support other parents in, drawing out that wisdom within their children. And I remember Jen telling me about when we first were starting to go to ministerial school. And we went through at that time where it was 2 years of school, Monday through Thursday, you were there all morning, and then you had to go off and put it all into practice. It's quite an adventure, but we did it. And they had us arriving before 7:30 every morning on those days, because we had to have our prayer time together before we went into classroom. Well, because Ogun was working and teaching at that time, that meant Jennifer got to get herself together and ready and get little 3-year-old Joy together and off to preschool before Jennifer got herself across town to Unity Village. Well, that usually went pretty well. They had a little method in the way they would do that. But this one particular morning, everything was a struggle. Just getting out of bed, socks, shoes, clothes, food, brushing the teeth, everything. It was just, to get Joy to move was impossible. And by the time Jennifer got in the car with Joy and got her buckled into her car seat and they were on their way, and Jennifer was just in a state. And they pulled up at the preschool, and Jennifer knew she could not leave her precious Joy there, with that between them as they went. And so she turned around to Joy, who was sitting in the back seat, in her car seat, and she said, "Honey, we can't start our day like this. Would you give us a prayer?" And she said, "Okay, Mommy." And she closed her eyes and she said, "The love between us knows what to do." A 3-year-old's prayer. The love between us always knows what to do. Love and nurturing, these are these qualities that we've all come to expect of mothers. And some days we do better than others, don't we? And yet, it's a powerful emotion. And it's a powerful way of being. And I know many of you are longtime Unity students, and you're aware that love is also one of our 12 powers. One of those faculties within each and every one of us that's always operating and accessible and ready to be further developed and brought forward. And in that context, in Unity, we know love as the unifying, harmonizing power of the universe. The unifying, harmonizing power of the universe. Isn't that beautiful? And isn't that the truth of it? When we are able to remember that that's always accessible to each and every one. I was reminded recently of a little girl's story. And she told this about when she was at the playground with her mom one day. And she was just big enough to be in the big kid swings. Any of you remember that? A very exciting moment in life, big kid swing. Your feet don't touch the ground, but you're hanging on tight. And her mom pulled her back and gave her a big push. And her mom was telling her, "Now put your legs out and then bring them back." And she was coaching her to pump herself on there. And the little girl was enjoying the ride so much, she didn't really put too much effort into that. The swing was slowing down, and the little girl said, "Oh, Mom, can't you give me another push?" And her mom says, "No, honey, you can do this. You got this. Just lean back, put your legs out, and then swing them back." And the little girl was kind of aggravated because the other moms and dads around there kept pushing their kids. But she knew if she objected, she'd get the look. She didn't want that. So she gave it her best shot, and she was grunting, and she was leaning, and she was leaning, and moving her legs, and trying to get that swing going. And before she knew it, she was swinging. And her toes were almost touching the clouds. She could hardly believe it. And she was so excited that she jumped off the swing. And she turned around and she ran to her mom and she said, "Mommy, did you see me? I did it." And her mom said, "Of course I saw you, honey. I never took my eyes off you." That mom knew not only what the love between them was to be, but what it was not supposed to be that day. It was not supposed to be doing it for her daughter. And it was only years later, after her mom passed, that she realized why. Her mom had made her do things for herself all her life, because she knew she could face whatever life had to offer. Sometimes the love between us knows what not to do. And I've got to say that this Mother's Day has gotten me thinking about some moms who have come through some incredibly difficult situations. And one of them, her name was Margaret. And she was so happy to give birth to her beautiful boy, Kelly. But right away she noticed something wasn't right. When he'd get upset, and she picked him up and held him and tried to comfort him in a way that every mother naturally would, he would become more upset and more distraught. And she didn't know how to help him. And it didn't take long before he was diagnosed as being severely autistic. And there was always this great love she had for her boy, but she was never able to connect with him physically or get to know who he was, except by what didn't work. But she got busy researching. She found a school near where they lived in Iceland, and it was a school that did a great job with teaching about basic skills, so he could learn to feed himself and do some of those kinds of things. But there were no opportunities at that school for him to learn anything beyond that. Thank goodness for the internet, because Margaret was able to start researching. And she went for it with looking for opportunities for her son Kelly to learn. And there wasn't that much available where she was. But the United States had a wealth of information and opportunities. And it wasn't easy for her to do this, but she made plans for the solo trip to come to the United States. And she traveled the United States and visited a number of schools and research centers and medical facilities, all these places that had all these techniques and ideas. And she learned some amazing things. She learned that all around the world, the occurrence and the intensity of autism is the same. That boys are much more likely to be victims of autism than girls, and that a severely autistic child may be able to read and spell at a very high level, but not be able to express it in any way. And of all the places she visited, including a couple right in Sacramento, California, the one that impressed her the most was one she visited in Austin, Texas. And it is a center there, a clinic, that was started based on the work of one woman, a woman named Soma. Now, Soma had lived in India with her son Tito. And Soma had experienced much of what Margaret and Kelly had experienced. But the doctors in India were not very helpful. At age 3, when Tito was diagnosed, they basically said, keep him busy, and he's in his own world. And yet something told Soma that he wasn't in his own world all the time, because quite suddenly he'd be in her world if she was opening a piece of chocolate. She knew there had to be a way to connect with her son and communicate and help him to learn. And she didn't have any experience with autism. She had some advanced degrees in science, but she didn't know where to begin. But she just started creating her own curriculum with her son. She taught him to start pointing to letters and numbers. And she actually started reading with him and getting him to read textbooks and the classics. And by age 6, he could read completely independently. She began to transition him into writing on a laptop. First it was a number board and then going to a laptop. By age 11, he published his first book. He was determined by leading experts in Britain to be a gifted child. And there was a documentary made about him, and soon after that, Soma was offered a fellowship to come to the United States and began teaching other people her method for supporting young people with severe autism. And what she did was she first started in Los Angeles and then moved to Austin. But working with the number board and the letters, within a matter of hours, establishing a rapport and a connection with severely autistic children that had never communicated with anyone, finding out what was important to them and what they wanted to learn. And Margaret saw Soma demonstrate this for her. And she went back to Iceland inspired. And she knew it was going to be a big project. But she managed to bring her son Kelly and their whole family back to Austin, Texas. And together, they saw the miracle happen for Kelly. That first day that he met Soma, she helped him to learn the number and letter board. He told them what he wanted to learn. He wanted to learn to play the piano because he had been composing songs in his mind since he was a tiny boy. The love of a mother, that which unifies and harmonizes us, makes it possible for amazing things to happen. When Margaret and Kelly and their family were returning to Iceland, she knew that for the first time, she had the tools to get to know her own son. We all have it within us. This divine love, this ability to connect, to have a harmonious, happy world. It blesses us, it blesses our family, and it circles out from here to the whole planet. I'm grateful to be remembering together with all of you today that this love between us really does know what to do. Bless you, friends. Happy Mother's Day.